Welcome to Luminary Lore Circle. Get ready for an intriguing tale of love, betrayal, and unexpected twists. Todd had known his future wife Ellen long before they started dating, as he was friends with the infamous college playboy Dan, who studied in the same group as her. They met at a big party at the guy's cottage outside the city. During her college years, Ellen had always been the star of parties. A beautiful and slender girl could not help but attract male attention. Back then, Todd was dating another girl, so he wasn't looking to get to know her. However, after graduating from college, they all coincidentally got jobs at the same company, but in different departments. Dan decided to marry his girlfriend, who was friends with Ellen. So, by a twist of fate, the future spouses found themselves at their mutual friend's wedding. There they started talking and discovered kindred spirits in each other. Active emailing began at work, which led to dates. Walks in the park and quickly resulted in their own wedding. Everything was going so naturally and easily that it was hard to believe. Ellen never gave Todd reason to doubt his choice. She always let her husband go to corporate events, to bars with friends, and even to clubs. There was no jealousy at all, which made the man feel free. Even in married life, he was extremely grateful to Ellen for her adequacy and calmness. In this regard, the first 3 years of marriage seemed like heaven to him. However, as soon as the man finally relaxed, alarming signals appeared. The first incident happened when they were celebrating Dan's birthday at his country cottage with just the guys, alcohol, and a barbecue. Old classmates shared events from the recent past, discussed work, and naturally, at some point started talking about their wives. One of the men who had dated Ellen before meeting Todd unexpectedly asks with a sly squint, "Do you think your wife is cheating on you?" Maybe because of the alcohol, he didn't take this question seriously, so if he just shook his head no, but a malicious smile didn't escape his notice. The topic quickly changed to another, and Todd didn't bring it up again. The second alarm came when the man noticed a certain pattern in Ellen's behavior. Whenever they went to visit Dan and his wife, she would always put on bright makeup and short dresses as if putting herself on display. For comparison, when the spouses went to visit other mutual friends, she dressed as usual and barely wore any makeup. The next signal appeared last year in the summer, when a group of friends from 4 families with children rented a cottage for the weekend. During this vacation, Todd began to notice one thing. His wife often sat next to Dan, even more than next to her own husband. Either she would sit next to him, although there were plenty of free seats at the table, or he would sit next to Ellen. On the last day, Todd deliberately distanced himself from the company under the pretext of lying in a hammock and reading a book alone in order to observe his wife from afar. Everything repeated itself. Ellen and Dan were sitting together again and talking almost exclusively to each other. The friend didn't even pay attention to his own wife when she came up to ask something. Todd had seen a similar picture before. His colleague at work was cheating on her husband with another coworker and barely hid the relationship. Whether it was a corporate event, someone's birthday, or other holiday, this couple often spent time together looking at his wife and Dan. Now the man noticed similar behavior. Everything was happening the same way. After this, there was a serious conversation with his wife. Hearing her husband's suspicions, Ellen immediately started apologizing for her behavior and offered to stop communicating with Dan herself if it could ruin their marriage. Her willingness to take such radical measures reassured Todd, and since then the woman did not sit next to Dan at joint parties. Dressed more modestly when visiting him and his wife, Todd's calm did not last long. When a group of families gathered at Dan's house, the adults gathered around a long table and talked until late at night, drinking alcohol. As it happened, Ellen was sitting next to her friend, with Todd next to her, quite drunk. Dan, as if forgetting about the presence of someone else's husband and his own wife, casually put his hand on the woman's thigh. She immediately objected and brushed off his hand, hissing at what he was allowing himself. Dan looked at her in drunken stupor, surprised in an instant, became angry and confrontational. Asked Ellen why it used to be okay. But now it wasn't. These words splashed cold water and silvered Todd leaning over his wife. He quickly grabbed Dan's wrist, squeezing it hard, and asked point blank what that used to be okay, whether Dan was really very drunk or was skillfully pretending. Even in that state, he remained silent for the rest of the time, unable to properly focus his gaze. Dan's wife, sensing trouble, apologized for her drunk fool's behavior and let him into the house to sleep. Likewise, Todd took his wife aside to talk without causing a scene in front of the other guests. Strangely, under her husband's harsh interrogation, Ellen tried to justify not herself, but Dan. She asked him not to be angry at Dan and forgive his loose tongue. She admitted that before, when they all gathered at his cottage, a drunk Dan could playfully pinch her thigh or put his hand on her knee. But he acted so brazenly because of the alcohol, so his flirting shouldn't be taken seriously. That didn't mean she was cheating on him or flirting with other men, however. Todd found her words hard to believe regarding Dan. This wasn't the first time he noticed strange behavior from Ellen, and each time his trust in her decreased. Either she would get dressed up and wear makeup for this idiot or talk and sit next to only him. His ex-wife slyly hinted with a smile that she was having an affair with others. Todd had no direct evidence of her infidelity, but these warning signs gave him no peace. The man was tired and didn't want to monitor his wife every time something suspicious happened because it was killing his nerves. The spontaneous thought that the spouses should separate for a while and take a break from each other seemed more attractive than ever. Therefore, Todd felt no remorse when Ellen immediately burst into tears at this statement and fell to her knees before him. He was also tired of his wife's apologies. As it turned out later, the man was right to decide to take a short break in their relationship and live separately for a while. As if by magic, Ellen, Dan, her ex, and another acquaintance were found to have HIV. Dan's wife reported this over the phone, crying and sobbing as she complained to Todd that her husband had confessed to cheating with other women and contracted the virus from one of them. The puzzle came together. Given that his wife and mutual acquaintances found out about the virus at around the same time, he no longer doubted that Ellen had caught it from one of her lovers. Maybe she had slept with them all. When Todd's test results came back negative, the man breathed a sigh of relief. There was only peace of mind for his own health, and he still had to talk to Ellen. When he himself came to her to figure it all out, his wife dodged and tried to convince him that she must have contracted the virus while visiting others through dishes or shared towels. When many families gathered, these lame excuses angered Todd. He knew perfectly well back from school that HIV was transmitted only sexually. From mother to child and through blood, Ellen couldn't have genetically inherited this virus. She didn't have any blood transfusions either, so sexual transmission was the most likely option. It was enough to list this information and patiently press the right points until the woman slumped and finally gave up. She confessed her affair with Dan and her ex. She said she had met both in the past and still felt some romantic feelings that arose suddenly and pushed her into the arms of other men. In an instant, all the love Todd had felt before evaporated as if it had never existed. In a way, he felt relieved by this confession because nothing held him to this woman anymore. Over the last year of marriage, he was tired of worrying about all the questionable signals whenever his wife gave reason to doubt herself. Besides, now the man was more concerned about his health and was glad he remained healthy. The spouses quickly filed for divorce and parted by mutual consent. Sometimes Todd thought he should have been stricter with his ex-wife, but for her frivolity and infidelity, she had already received a well-deserved punishment in the form of the virus. But the real pleasure of the divorce the man received when he first met Dan and her ex after the news, instead of a handshake, he punched them both in the jaw, saying in the end that it was for his wife. Those meetings were the last for them because Todd completely broke off communication with his old classmates, the part of the property that remained with him after the divorce. He sold and used to buy a motorhome on which he could fulfill his childhood dream to travel across all the states of America. Thanks to remote work and freedom for marriage, Todd could afford it. That's the story. Share your thoughts in the comments about this situation and the behavior of the spouses. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and be sure to like this video. It will greatly help promote the channel. Take care and have a wonderful day. Share your thoughts in the comments about this situation and the behavior of the spouses. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and be sure to like this video. It will greatly help promote the channel. Take care and